One of America's most magnificent waterways is blackened and befouled tonight by the biggest oil spill in American history.
240,000 barrels, 11 million gallons of Alaskan crude oil escaped from the huge vessel.
So, oiled residue of the Exxon Valdez 18 years later. What it's really going to take is a social movement of ordinary people in America realizing that transitioning off of fossil fuels is an ethical and a moral choice. That, for me, was the trigger to becoming an accidental activist.
On April 20th, 2010, a powerful explosion rocks the Deepwater Horizon drilling platform in the Gulf of Mexico. BP and the U.S. Coast Guard agree to spray a chemical dispersant on an unprecedented scale.
By June, people were starting to say, why is EPA telling us the air is okay to breathe when I can step outside and I get a headache instantly? This is setting up for this complete clash of industry, government versus the citizens. It's all about oil at all costs.
We needed the job, we needed to work, we needed money so we could feed our family, but at no time did we sign on to put our health at risk or in danger.
I've already lost my boat, I've lost my business, I've lost my life.
The majority of oil has now evaporated or dispersed.
So they do whatever they can do to keep us dependent on the oil. And as far as them making the drilling any safer, I doubt it.
Big oil is in our Congress writing laws that they want the legislators to pass.
And now, with some of the campaign contribution laws, large financial interests carry even more weight, where you can contribute unlimited amounts of money to political candidates and hide the fact that you're doing it.
I was asked by middle school students, if you were our age now, what's the most important thing you would be working on? Children their age were actually suing the federal government over the climate.
Change is really going to come from the bottom up. Think about your congressman that you are calling and how you are sharing the stories of frontline communities.
If enough of us of all ages and diversity step forward now, we would be the change that we're waiting for. We don't have to wait on any of our politicians. It's up to us to be the change.
We all need to come together as community, as a global community.
That's the only way that change is going to happen, is if we organize ourselves in numbers.
This is where we need to be, in solidarity.
Climate change is considered to be one of the greatest challenges of our time.
The last 30 years, global mean surface temperatures have gone up, and a 1 degree rise. The theory is that it's human-induced carbon emissions.
Reducing the air pollution on the planet is a big challenge, and everybody is part of it, and we need to find solutions.
We need a concentration to care about the climate change.
Every increase of 1% of a population will result in about 1.4% of the total energy consumption.
To tackle the climate change issues, need to encourage all the professionals to be involved.
Action needs to be taken now, before it's too late.
Cuando empezó la operación petrolera en la Amazonía ecuatoriana, no teníamos conocimiento de qué podía pasar a un futuro.
Hay una colección de gas que no se soporta.
Eso es un impacto territorial y después un impacto social y cultural.
Al principio se resaltaba como un aporte importante para el desarrollo humano, pero después de un proceso todo cambió.
Todo petróleo.
Es un área explotada.
No podemos cultivar.
Es un área deforestada.
No hay contaminación, mire, yo tengo aquí la fotografía.
Es un área súper contaminada.
Exposed to all these problems is probably the beginning of finding a solution.
The Anthropocene is the time in the geological record when humans have moved the planet outside its natural limits.
Humans go from being participants in the whole Earth to being a dominant feature.
Dominating the oceans, the landscape, agriculture, animals.
It could be a full-scale catastrophic change.
We have not a way to get back. We live now in a different world.
It is such a fundamental change in the way the Earth is behaving that we need to communicate that as powerfully as possible to everybody.
Being a Dayak that's an honor for me. I was proud to be a Dayak because people of the Dayak, they're living hand to hand with the forest. The Dayak people naturally came from the forest. Most of our people get food from the forest and using tools from the forest giving us life. The forest to the Dayak people, that's more than something that important. It's It's more like a philosophy. It's how the Dayak people create a balance of their living. You can find in every place in this Borneo land how they live with the forest, what the forest mean for them. Forests give everything, not just water, not just clean water, not just the air, not just the cold air. Our people can get everything from the forest. Forest is the main source of their life. Without forest, there will be no Dayak people.
How many times have you wondered, does my one life make a difference in the world?
We are all far more profoundly connected than anyone can possibly imagine. There is no separation. All separation is totally illusion.
How many times have your choices right now been affected by just a simple statement somebody gave you?
In this web of life, everything is connected to everything else. If we looked at the world in a systemic way, this would help us to solve the major problems of our time.
When people get to a certain level of connection, it triggers a transformational response in them, and they discover their own internal power, worth, gift, purpose.
Come with us on this journey. Interconnections.
Ivory and the rhino horn, those are inanimate objects. While the primary product of great apes is the ape itself. And it's almost always an infant.
Sweetwater's Chimpanzee Sanctuary at Olpejeta Conservancy, we have a vision to be the leading chimpanzee sanctuary in the entire universe, and also to provide a platform for education and advocacy on the plight of chimpanzees in the wild. That story of slavery and trade and misuse has to be told, and we are the people to tell it.
They're not meant to be your pet. They're meant to run wild and free, and the reason why this sanctuary exists is because of our faults.
We belong to the same family. We are all hominids. These great apes are in our family. Therefore, we have the responsibility to take care of them.
We're putting a unique shipwreck on the seabed that will put the BVI up there as one of the most sought-after dive destinations in the Caribbean.
Having its final resting ground here in the BVI, that's a great honor in itself.
The project really revealed itself to be about something much bigger.
Our only industry is tourism. We have, unfortunately, nothing else.
Right now, money is sorely needed, and this is going to be the key to that.
I love the swamp. I'd love to be out here fishing in the swamp right now. That's what I wanted to be doing, you know. But you can't fish in this. We're both with the Loe La Vie camp, which is the resistance camp down here in South Louisiana, and we're fighting the Bayou Bridge pipeline, which is the tail end of the Dakota Access pipeline.
They're pushing really aggressively against us right now. There's like 17 of us who are facing felony charges under the new anti-protest law. They're using this law to frame pipeline construction as critical infrastructure, and that supersedes water.
Why should I have to give up what my family has worked so hard to provide for me because you want to make some money?
My 3-year-old child told me, Mommy, my nose doesn't work. No child should have to do that. No child should have to say, my nose doesn't work, Mommy.
If people had done this a few generations back, it wouldn't be so bad. This is the first time that we've ever seen this level of direct action done here. You don't get to tell people what they should and shouldn't do when they're fighting for their own liberation.
You missed us!
It's an American fight! Maybe they think that they can just come in and shoot somebody, kill somebody or something like that. And everybody deserves to have clean water. It's a righteous cause and everybody should fight for it, you know.
The Clean Water Act has protected waters of the United States for 40 years, and now that protection is in jeopardy.
The current administration announced as one of their priorities that they wanted to cut back on the jurisdictional reach of the Clean Water Act.
There's been an effort to take away one of our most prized resources, which are ephemeral streams, but they comprise most of our waterways.
All of our waters are connected. It's like capillaries in your body that lead to larger veins. It's going to affect those larger veins and those larger rivers.
Natural areas work better than anything we can construct or anything that we can restore. They are like a flawless machine. For us to make the decision that it's not important enough to protect them is crazy.
Preserve some, conserve some, and use some is my philosophy.
We do not live in this world independent from the earth. We're something that relies on the earth.
If federal protection recedes, state protection also recedes.
The rivers of Alabama are the single greatest resource we have. It should not be a partisan issue on whether or not our water is clean. I will be an activist for clean water.
We're losing ice at a very rapid rate.
The animal production system sits at the heart of such a large range of environmental problems.
It's not just destroying animals, it's destroying us, and it's destroying the only home that we have.
The adoption of meat and dairy-free diets is probably one of the single biggest ways to reduce your impact on Earth.
We see all kinds of generations going towards more plant-based options.
Let's just stop selling meat at the festival. Why not?
We have one large piece of meat analog.
Everybody was like, oh, fuck that. I don't care, there's no meat. It's delicious what we have. No complaints.
Consumenten en wetenschap zijn al veel verder dan de politiek. In Powerplant laat ik zien hoe ver we al zijn en wat jij kan doen.
There is nothing can stop us. It's a revolution.
Let your conscience guide your actions.
My dad. He was one of the Midwest's largest industrial chemical distributors, and he practiced his craft liberally. Embedded in my DNA has been the belief that chemicals make us cleaner, safer, and prettier. Then, my 30s hit, and it was like every best friend started having kids. They began taking a closer look at what they were buying, and it made me consider everything I use. I realized I'm surrounded by a lot of chemicals.
There's 84,000 chemicals being used by U.S. companies. Almost none of them have been adequately tested for their health impacts.
A possible link between common pesticides and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
For decades, we've all depended on special chemicals to protect us from fire, but now there are serious questions about the safety of those chemicals.
Chemicals from makeup could be seeping into her bloodstream.
You can just be living a normal life and you will accumulate over time hundreds and hundreds of toxic chemicals. Body burden really refers to the full array of chemicals or contaminants that are in our bodies.
During one of my late-night Google sessions, I found a study that freaked me out.
Babies, they are basically coming into the world pre-polluted. We tested for more than 400 chemicals and we found on average about 200 different chemicals in cord blood.
As someone who wants to start a family one day, I became very concerned about what chemicals I had in my body.
All the various things that when I have a little one, it will go from my body to them.
I don't think we realize how much we put in our bodies and how toxic it can be, and that we do pass it on, to our children. I think if we were more aware, we would be a lot more careful.
My results showed that I was full of chemicals, from pesticides to plastics and flame retardants. If we are surrounded by chemicals in the products we use and the food we eat, are we able as individuals to impact our own exposure? I brought in an expert whose guides and phone app showed me where some of the toxins were coming from.
Honestly, my legs do not need to smell like raspberry rain.
She helped me create a 30-day plan to see if I could lower my body burden with some very simple, basic changes that anyone can make. If our government won't create stronger regulations, and if the chemical companies won't prioritize people over profits, can we protect ourselves and future generations? Can we hit the reset button, or is it too late?
nyuma rero ya 94 ubwo rero niho nageze aho ndavuga nti aho kugira ngo nizamure njyenyine kanshinge ishyirahamwe yo kugira ngo n'abandi bagore biteze imbere.
I think it's important when you talk to people about gardening that you tell them all you need is a spade and a rake and a strong back. And when you are in a little garden, you do what we all should do. You kneel before nature. And that's important.
As a woman, I think because of the inequalities that we've grown up with, you're forced to work 10 times harder.
I think that by working and having friendships and partnerships with other women in agriculture helps me feel like I have a place. To have those relationships for myself with other women in the community is a really important part of my support network.
So we try to, I think, use agriculture as kind of a realistic tool in the fight against malnutrition. Not necessarily as a silver bullet, but the fact that by teaching better nutrition practices that emphasize where people can buy food, how people can cook their food, and that they can grow their food, that the food they're growing can be part of the solution.
We care about the environment. We care about pollution. We can seem overwhelmed by saying we can't make any difference, and I think that's totally erroneous. We can.